It's year 2023. Um, it's Memorial Day weekend. It, I'm trying. I was walking yesterday on Bell Boulevard trying to think in Bayside Station what it's like for me. And I'm thinking it's like being kept inside a pillowcase, which is inside a sleeping bag, which is inside of a tent. And someone standing guard at each of the levels. Somebody is standing guard over the tent on the outside to make sure the tent is protected. Somebody standing guard at the sleeping bag to make sure the sleeping bag is protected. And then somebody standing over the pillowcase to make sure the pillowcase is protected. And then I'm somewhere in the center of that. And that's what it feels like to have a God. You just know these things exist, um, and you are, it's like blind faith that each of the other levels is doing their own, throughout the night, throughout the day. um, so, and that's the level of personnel or persons that I never want to disappoint or upset, quite frankly. Um, but so I always keep that in the back of my mind. Um, Today I discovered, actually, this weekend I discovered. Now, last year, the Memorial Day air show had this mention of something called a Blue Angels. And I'm like, that's interesting. Because again, I've been reading this book that the Crazy Rich Asians put out, and they have this three-letter word, or two sets of three-letter words, and the cryptography on it. I'm like, if you're an Anglo-Saxon, you're like, they really don't like us. So, but I'm again open heart and just really trying to absorb some of this intelligence that is just floating out in the universe. And that was some direct by this Queen's Library with this square Q. Um, and so, but this year, there's no Blue Angels on the flight or on the commercials for Memorial Day, Jones Beach, Bethpage Federal Credit Union. This year, it's Thunderbirds. And I'm like, now that's interesting. So this year, there are wasps in the Atlantic that are arrived at 88. I was like, there's actually such a thing as a Thunderbird. And then yesterday on the news, they said there's really something that's called an ME3. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense at Me TV. I was like, oh my gosh, the humans really are trying to communicate something. Um, so I'm just trying to learn whatever it is because I'm sitting here somewhere inside a pillowcase, inside of a sleeping bag, inside of a tent, and like there's really no direct communication. I also noticed there was a message on the Intrepid. There was some kind of gala with Paramount Global, um, and they were celebrating their own and military service personnel, um, and their 80th year. And I'm like, oh, there's the 80 for Brady. Like, there's one Adam 12. I'm not trying to get a fight with anybody. So, um, there's that. And then, so I'm going to put that up, or more things that I noticed. And then, like, my question really comes in, like, there's something somewhere, because then they just mentioned something called a DARPA. I'm like, I mean, like, all fields and jobs I could have had, and I could have had a nice life, like, on this upswing of, like, everybody looks like they went from some form of class or life and then got to some other level. But yet, for some reason, my parents and I and other family members that I have locally have not, like, benefited even close to some of these other classes of people. Um, and then they mentioned something about this one billionaire, and I'm like, he's not even familial, but he became a billionaire inside this system while my parents and I were held without. And I'm like, how is that even possible? What are they promoting here? And why is it a lot of that level of billionaire and millionaire class, like, growing, and yet people like myself and my parents, and again, like, I have RH sensitivity in this AB abomination. So, I mean, it really gets difficult as to why are some, I mean, there's clearly profiteering going on. And I'm pretty sure at mysticals with astronomical purpose, and I'm being withheld from where I need to be and with whom I need to be with by some unbeknownst portion of humanity. I see very clearly these profiteering groups that have done exponentially well, but yet I'm being held somewhere between a pillowcase and a tent, and it's really hard to, like, key in on where are the good guys and where are the profiteers that just have blind disregard for the fact that, I mean, there are certain groups benefiting more than others, and things are dangerously going off balance. Like, how, where is this counterbalance effort ever? So here's this Me TV, and this is this TV show that I discovered, Thunderbirds, and then this year, all of a sudden, it's not Blue Angels being the highlighted Air Force, whatever. It's actually, I'm like, oh my God, they actually exist. It's not just made for TV, like moving pictures, like, did actually, there's real things. I mean, again, are these, like, I have to ask myself, like, if I had an intelligence community, which I don't know that, like, where intelligence even exists, except on, like, some TV. Like, they know what they're talking about. The rest of us, like, I didn't get the Cliff Notes. Why are they Cliff Notes? Well, let's just say at Thelma and Louise, and Virginia, it seems really important that I would get some Cliff Notes so I could actually live in the world that I was birthed to, and not some, like, recluse shut in and shut out, and then, like, bullied out of even being able to survive, while there's others clearly doing profiteering, storytelling, like, having a grand old time in whatever the hell they do for a living. But yet I'm not even invited into that group. How does that work at Abominations? I'm just curious. Somebody else's, like, idea to have the A's, the B's, and the O's under one roof and one territory. I'm clearly in an RHA nation, but I don't understand exactly what's going on here and why I can't even get to a level that is befitting the astronomical purpose that has a certain group that knows what it is.
I told him we'd be there, Father. I hope I did right.
Of course you did right, son. What's that supposed to mean, anyway?
I left the name of the guy who was going to be rescued to last.
Why, who is it?
Eddie Houseman.
Eddie Houseman? Hey, Father, he knows us.
That's right, Scott. Eddie knows us.
That means we can't help? Is that what you're saying, Dad?
No, Alan.
But if we go through with this job, we're gonna break our cover. And we all know how essential it is that this outfit remains secret.
What do we do? Turn this call down?
No, John, we don't turn down any call. We've done everything we could to hide our identity, but not at the risk of wasting a life. Carry on, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's really interesting because I feel like my entire season has been completely wasted. I made good on bringing the clock into, and the stitch of time into reality, or this reality. It's just the partnering or the pairing for the air is completely off. And I know it was very important to someone at one point in an RH. Now here's the news that actually, this is Channel 7 ABC News, that makes me aware that they really do exist, this Thunderbirds.
And last year, as you all know, this is the 19th annual Bethpage Air Show, and anyone from Long Island knows it's the day that Jones Beach really comes alive. We were here for all of it today, and the vibe, sunshine, smiles, and adrenaline.
They came here to decorate the sky above Jones Beach. Blink and you might miss some of the early passes from the U.S. Thunderbirds, but what you can't miss, that supersonic sound.
Would you ever try something like that?
I probably will, but I think it's worse than a roller coaster. But the G-forces, yeah, the G-forces are crazy.
All the forces aligned here today, certainly the weather, and they started filing into Jones Beach bright and early. By mid-afternoon, this was the crowd, but still, on this day of run-throughs, believe it or not, a lighter crowd and less traffic.
We don't have to pay to park, and there's not...
And then at 6 a.m. this morning on CBS, right here, they're talking about Fleet Week. So they go to a different whatever, and I have no idea because I don't know any of them. And like, there's really nothing. I mean, there's people that call themselves part of an intelligence community, but I really think they're the rumor mill and the entertainment police. I don't know where my superheroes actually are. They gave me some names like Eric, Charles, Magneto, Xavier, Thor. They gave an Ant-Man and a Wasp. I don't want to get into that because I can't even follow that storyline. I don't know who writes these things. So anyway, so here's this thing with Paramount Global trying to follow along from like the 44-year-old yard line in like, where have like the real people been my entire life? Like, I mean, how did this get so off course?
On the Intrepid, in honor of its 80th year since being commissioned, the Salute to Freedom Gala was held last night, where Paramount's Global Chief Veteran Officer Richard Jones was awarded the 2023 Intrepid.
Like, if and only if these people in the us, which go by principles and ancestors that look like this, that run the us in the US, for ancestries and whatever, guidelines, I suppose, that make sense logically for the rest of us. Where I'm really not clear is in this Paramount Global, Where is, like, they had on a salute to the West Point graduates. How does one even get their child into a West Point? When does that even begin? Like, I'm RH. Where is my representative to sit me down with like birthing plan, with help for my children, with help with even finding? There's only 10% of me on the planet. We're not talking about the rest of the abominations. We're talking about 10% family service. 1% usually, like, so again, and whether that meeting happened or it didn't happen, Florida happened, so
Salute Award. Jones is a U.S. Army veteran who formed the Paramount Veterans Network to promote the well-being of veterans and their families.
That the Paramount family goes beyond merely thanking veterans for their service. They ensure that the...
So, like, they want this level of respect. I get it. They want this level of gratitude. I get it. But yet, they don't even have the decency to treat me and my children with the same level of respect that they clearly are getting. I hear when you're a veteran, you get money from the government for like your whole life. Great. So where was my pathway into that system since the marriage thing just never came to fruition, but yet I still produced the clock system?
that their sacrifices will never be forgotten. We tell impactful stories. We work closely with the production teams. Paramount is 100% committed to advancing military-themed and veteran-themed programming.
Great. Thanks for acknowledging your part in the profiteering section of humanity that completely disappointed me and completely left me in the lurch while you're going on doing all these really important things out there in the world. And I'm stuck in some pillowcase, inside a sleeping bag, inside a tent, which clearly you're all running some business office off of. I would think that key pieces between the 1 and the 10% would be treated a little bit better and not so harmful, but that didn't happen. So now where are these people who actually care? I see them talk about it a lot. I don't really see it going into action, like, ever in my life.
Secretary of the Navy Carlos Del Toro was also honored with the 2023 Intrepid Freedom Award. CBS correspondent Jim Axelrod served as Master of Ceremonies. Paramount is the parent company of CBS 2. Time now 6:24. We'll be right back.
Seen from here.
So here's a highlight on the E20 for CBS Saturday mornings. I thought that this was really interesting since they had these like conversations going. They brought out a lot of films. They've made a lot of mentions in movies. They've made motions with it. And here I am, since a kid, not getting the same level of education, not getting the same level of opportunity, not even getting the same level of meeting people and enhancing or like exploring that some of these people in the conversation are able to obtain. I'm not even in the same level of network that some of these they didn't start the conversation, but they're in the conversation, which I've been muted out of for some reason.
If you could wave a magic wand and say, we're going to stop the growth of the technology, there's probably benefits in that, but I don't think it's viable today.
So humans will not stay in the loop.
A human looking at a target, saying, yep, that's a valid target, pressing a button every single time, that would be ideal. I'm not sure that's going to be the case.
We requested an interview with the Defense Department. They were not able to schedule one. Their written guidelines call for an appropriate level of judgment in the use of autonomous weapons.
It's remarkable that James Cameron, a director, the director for the Terminator, came up with this notion that this is possible.
It's sci-fi stuff.
It really is.
Did he really though? Or was he one of the ones that were allowed to have a conversation with somebody in the know who couldn't go on camera or couldn't go on record, that then pursued it and was given that opportunity to participate? Because again, like the humans, they are so lost in the pillowcase to sleeping bag to tent conversation.
And it's terrifying. I hate to say it like that. There are all these great opportunities that it offers, but
you want the human element there. We'll be right back with much more. The dish is actually coming up.
You want the human element there, but do you really, like, I think, or do you want the God element there? Because, like, there is a biological system that calibrates and can be calibrated differently. Like, some clocks are measured differently than others. Again, that's between rational and irrational systems, but it does exist somewhere between terrestrial and then this extraterrestrial level knowledge. Inside the same program, they also highlighted just one of I don't know how many billionaires. He made it from a millionaire to a billionaire in the same time frame that I've gotten nowhere inside the same U.S. American federal note system. And this, I mean, again, there's more to it, which I'm not going to enhance the conversation, and I'm not going to highlight the piece. It's on the same E20 CBS Mornings, and had something to do with TLC. And that's just one example of the profiteering that's going on, almost unregulated or unchecked, because I don't know who's overlooking it when they don't even bring a God or a God into this conversation. I feel like I'm like breaking into the conversation because I have no choices left. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. And I think at that point they're like, well, then that qualifies as slavery to some unknown source. And then that becomes that like 3/5 vote thing. But again, I don't really want to put too much words into that because I really don't know how the humans are running any part of the system at this point. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. And it's not for lack of trying either. I've been trying since I was a kid in order to make sure I was on the right track, to meet the right man, to have the right family, because I knew that I was really going to be important somewhere in the future. And for some reason, it feels like a death roll spiral out of control rather than getting me to the appropriate levels I needed to get to. And I don't know why.